Today we're going to test, see how it works, and take apart a stun gun. And yes, someone is going to get quite shocked in this video. Stay tuned until the end. I'm tired of seeing this in American movies. The woman is walking down the street and suddenly someone comes to attack her. She takes it out of her purse and gives the guy an electric shock on his arm. I've always wanted to see how one of these works, and today we bought a stun gun here. You can buy this thing online, and we were really unsure if it was illegal to buy, if it was illegal to have something like this. So before buying, I sent an email to the São Paulo military police and to the army asking if this was illegal. The military police told me to check with the army, which said it wasn't prohibited. It's not on the banned items list. So for you who was already dying to comment that it's forbidden, it's not. What is actually forbidden is the dart shooting electric shock weapon, which police commonly use worldwide. First, how does this little device work? It's simple. The battery is hidden inside and can't be opened, but we charge it directly with this cable. Then it has a side button that, if you pull it just a little, turns on a flashlight. There's a little LED in the front. It also functions as a flashlight, but the LED is quite weak. It's basically like the flashlight on our phones. See, gun flashlight, phone flashlight. I think the phone is much stronger than this thing, see? Much stronger. If I push this button a little further, a red light turns on. And then it's ready to give the shock. I just have to press this switch here, see? And the shock is released. It's not really a shock, it's just a spark, an electric discharge. A shock is when someone is actually shocked. Now here's the interesting part. Because here at the tip, there's a whole specific shape for this thing to work well. First, we're going to have two little plates that are very close together. When I press the button, the spark will be released between these little plates. They have two tips because energy tends to concentrate at the tip, so this tip helps the spark to exist. This spark has two functions. I'm sure about the first. It scares people. I think I know the second. Whoever has this in their hand doesn't actually need to use it. When you do this, the other person backs off or runs because they see you have a weapon. It's like shouting. It's a threat, but it can also have a more electronic function, which is to discharge the device when you press the button. Because if you press this button and the energy doesn't come out between the tips, it might come out somewhere else. It could exit through your hand, for example. The two tips ensure the device discharges at the right time. Then we'll have two small horns and two larger tips pointing forward. And then that's really made to touch someone and give the shock. In fact, if you bring it close to something that can carry the energy, which is a conductor, and release the energy, it will come out through these bigger tips and not through the little tips that used to give the scare. And continuing here on the side, we have two metal strips. This is also very important because if someone tries to take it out of another person's hand, they'll grab it and get quite a shock. Here on the sticker of the thing, it says it has 999,000 watts or watts. Like the coolest people in the comments usually say you have to mention, guys, but there's no way it's ever gonna reach that. For reference, a powerful home shower uses about 7,000 watts. The power this thing claims to have would be enough to charge several electric cars at the same time. It lacks that, but has thousands of volts, so yes, the voltage is very high. Because for the energy to jump from one place to another, it has to overcome the resistance of the air. Air theoretically is an insulator, it doesn't let energy pass through, but you know that if there are a lot of volts, then the energy does pass. That's why during a storm, lightning breaks through air resistance and hits the ground. In general, to break through this resistance, you need 30,000 volts for each centimeter of air. This can vary a bit. If it's humid, for example, it's less, but we can have an average. Considering the distance between one end and the other here, which is about 9.5 millimeters, we would have a voltage of 28,500 volts. Maybe you're wondering, can that be fatal? Almost 30,000 volts? No, not if only a few amperes or electrons pass through. And that's the case with this little machine. It can't discharge that much energy into a person, and it's already designed not to release enough to kill someone. But anyway, before taking it apart, we wanted to run some tests. For example, can this spark light a candle? It's running out. The battery's dead. The battery's dead. Now it's really out. Yeah, no, it didn't light the candle. It's cool to remember that this spark is actually plasma, the fourth state of matter. When energy passes through, it can knock electrons out of atoms, leaving some with extra or missing electrons. We say that the gas is ionized there, and that's why it lights up. And that's also why it heats up, and it should be possible to light something with that. It didn't light the candle, but does the candle's flame cause any interference with the ray? Or does the ray cause any interference with the flame? Or this ray or plasma likely occurs more easily. Where the air is hot, the ray ends up diverting into the fire and messes up the whole flame. And it's good to remember that this is kind of like a little explosion, right? When the lightning strikes, it heats up the area where it is a lot and creates a kind of little gust. That's visible even from afar. And notice by the sound how the hot air makes it easier for electricity to pass through. Look, far from the hot air, close, far, close. Will the little pump work? The battery's running out again. The battery on this thing doesn't last at all. Look, it's dead. Now let's see if at least one little bulb lights up, right? Nothing. Will it pop a balloon? It popped more because I tried to make the spark reach it, right? Let's try again. The problem is, there's no way for me to fit the balloon between the two pieces of metal here. Do you think it could at least damage a piece of paper? Now that's it. It fired like a machine gun. On the paper, the spark chooses a path, and along that path, when it goes through the paper, it burns a hole. Now I have a more physics-related question. Paper is considered an insulator and shouldn't conduct electricity, just like air, which also shouldn't allow electricity to pass. And this leather glove is one of the things we use here at Manual do Mundo to avoid getting shocked. Anyway, to protect our hands, can electricity get through leather? It goes right through and even leaves a burnt smell. It burned through the glove. Come here, is it this small burnt hole? What we just saw greatly impacts the stun gun itself. That means if you're wearing a glove like this, you won't be able to protect yourself from it. And it can also shock you through your clothes. Do you think that amount of electrons can light up a fluorescent lamp? Let's see it in the dark, right? Can an egg handle this machine? Look, that's cool. With the egg, the shock goes through the tip, right through the little horn. It made a small hole in the shell, but nothing happened. I expected it to explode, but it didn't. The last thing I'm going to test here, I promise, is a frog leg.
But Ivory, that's gross. Why test the frog's leg?
What's cool about the frog's leg? It's that we can recreate a historic experiment done in 1780 by an Italian doctor named Luigi Galvani. He noticed that when he hung the frog legs already dead on a brass hook, the legs started to move on their own. It was as if the animal had some kind of energy inside it, something really crazy. At the time, he wasn't the one who figured it out, but later it was understood that what was generating the electric energy there was the contact between the brass and the iron, because he used to hang those hooks on the iron handrails there, and the energy passing through the frog's leg made the leg move. Since the function of this thing here is exactly to kind of cause a malfunction in the muscles, make the muscles move quickly or lose control, maybe we can make this frog leg move too. It doesn't look very promising, but let's try. This smells like fish. 1, 2, 3, and go. I think the frogs that Galvani tested were fresher, right? This frog here, I think it died about a month ago. The muscle tissue isn't really in good shape anymore. By the way, it's important to remember that this energy here in our body isn't what actually gives energy for the muscle to move. What it's going to do is mess up the communication between the muscles and the brain. It's going to mess up the communication between the neurons. So our body loses muscle control. It can cause the muscle to stop moving or move on its own. But it's not this energy that gives the muscle the power to move. The muscle already has the energy ready for use. That might be the issue with the frog. The neurons may already be gone or degraded, and the muscle might lack energy at this stage. When I mention muscle energy, I mean chemical energy stored inside chemical reactions that power muscle function. Enough tests, let's sacrifice the animal. You probably imagine that the big risk I'm taking here is getting a huge shock, right? But this device was designed to deliver a shock. Unlike a television, which isn't designed to shock people, the shock can be much stronger than humans can handle. But in this case here, the worst that can happen is I jump back and complain about everything. I have the impression that either I didn't remove a screw or it wasn't made to be taken apart just for a change. The screw is behind the sticker. I accidentally opened everything and it's extremely simple. There's practically nothing here, just look. Let's go part by part, right? Everything is glued, everything with double-sided tape. At the end, we have the power input directly from the outlet, either 110 or 220 volts. Then there's a tiny little circuit, which is probably to turn this power into direct current. The battery accepts the current with less voltage, and then right after, we have 3. I'll test these batteries to see how many volts they hold, 3 or 3.6 volts. It's nothing out of this world. It's actually pretty low, this here. It won't shock us. Then the energy leaves the battery and goes through a switch where I can first turn on the flashlight. So here we have the flashlight working. It's just a simple LED. And there's this cone here which helps to make the light a bit more dispersed. And I can press the button one more time and then yes, it sends the power to this other switch. This is a spring switch, more like those doorbell ones that you press. When you let go, it turns off or on by itself, unlike a light switch that stays on when released. This is a safety issue, right? The taser isn't always on. Its power goes to a black box. Now, the question is this closed like this for safety or is it so no one knows what's inside? Let's open this, okay? I think it's best to wear a glove. My chance of getting shocked is low since I've already discharged this circuit, right? Here at the tip, where the energy comes out, see, I'm already shorting it. The energy stored in here. I removed all the outer layer and there's another layer underneath. I managed to recover some parts from the little guy here and I think we have a way forward. I also studied a bit about how this kind of equipment works. Here we go. The power leaves the battery and enters a coil, which is a bundle of wires. Here I couldn't quite identify it, but it's probably 2 coils. This here is a little transformer. Its function is to increase the voltage to make it more powerful. Then we have 2 capacitors. A capacitor is a device that stores and quickly releases energy, similar to a battery. It's probably here to store a lot of energy and send it to the next coil. So it keeps storing and releasing, storing and releasing, storing and releasing. That's because these coils only work if the energy oscillates, if it turns on and off. I'm sure it's a capacitor. I took one apart and found a giant aluminum sheet with a plastic layer in the middle, which is typical for capacitors. Next, there's another coil that likely serves the same purpose as the first. It's to raise the voltage, to make it have more tension, because at the end we're going to have a lot of volts. And there are some diodes, there's some electronics here that are probably to control these pulses, to make the capacitor discharge at the right time, to make the energy oscillate when it reaches the coil. I'm not sure this is the path. We could have, for example, both coils only at the end, or both coils right at the beginning, but anyway, that's the function of the parts. And one more hypothesis here is that I think all this plastic wasn't here to hide the components. It was meant to serve as insulation, to prevent the shock from being delivered to the electronics themselves. If you don't have this insulation, you could get shocked, or the shock could go to the parts and then the device gets damaged. And a cool thing to wrap this all up is that when you hear a stun gun, there's a sound it keeps making. Tick, 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 which is the capacitor discharging. If it repeatedly charges and releases, you get an energy oscillation. You can hear it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's time for the shock, but first I need to confess something. If you paid attention, the machine we took apart wasn't exactly the same one we were testing at the beginning of the video. That's because right when the video was about to start, I managed to break this machine here. And then the only thing left to do with it was to take it apart while Dani went to downtown Sao Paulo to buy this other one. It ended up costing half as much as the one we bought online. On the outside, they're basically the same. I assume they're identical inside as well. And now there's this shock part, right? I'll admit to you guys that I hate getting shocked. I dislike two things: getting shocked and throwing up. They just don't sit well with me. I'm not picky about tough situations. If I have to jump in the pool in winter, I will. If I need to lie on a bed of nails and take a hammer blow to the chest, I'll do it. But getting shocked doesn't please me. I don't find it funny. But lucky for you guys, Rodolfo, who works here with us, saw this thing and was dying to get shocked. He wanted to get shocked, like, voluntarily. I don't know, some people like one thing, others like something else, right? So that's it, you'll see now. Rodolfo wanted to get shocked on his own and I got out of it. That's good. Hold on, one last thing. I promise this is the last thing about the shock. We ran several tests and disassembled it. But this is something dangerous. It's really meant to be used as a last resort. I would compare it to a baseball bat, a knife. These are dangerous things. They're not meant to be played around with on people. So, the fact that it's not forbidden doesn't mean we can just go around using this thing on everyone. Got it?
Shall we test it?
Just to make it very clear that I'm not recommending anything, you do it at your own risk.
Look, let's see. There's no pacemaker. Let's test it on the leg, which should hurt less. Can I go? Go.
Go.
Calm down.
Was it or wasn't it?
Was it? Guys, this isn't a joke. Seriously. You can feel the twitch in the muscle. So, you saw, it was in the leg, the calf, it contracts, and right away I lifted my foot. It wasn't me who lifted it, it was a reflex. Did you see that?
And does it hurt?
It hurts. Well, at least in the leg, it actually paralyzed the muscle more than caused pain. The pain hurt before, like that little electric shock you get from an outlet. After that, you feel the muscle contracting and you can't move.
You can't speak properly.
Look, over there, I think it gives a shock. It really makes you move.
That's because you were shocking yourself.
There you go.
Did you turn it off right when you felt it? If it stayed on, it probably would.
Exactly, I think that's it.
It can't be good if you...
Holding someone like that lets you take them down.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, it was a pleasure. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. Look, I can walk.
The way this thing works here is very similar to a Tesla coil, which is a lightning machine. And once we showed a really big one that the boy made in Curitiba, we went to his house to visit and understand how it works. It's an old video, so it doesn't look like the new ones, but I think you'll still find it cool.